Incredible episode of the Underdog Leadership Podcast. In a minute, you're going to meet my amazing guest for today, Christina Schoemaker. And we are tackling the conversation about growth. The perks and the dark side, I would say. And Christina, she piqued my interest. We actually met at AFP Icon. It was happened in Toronto recently. And she was one of the folks that I met as part of the executive coaching experience that they had there. And I was completely blown away by what she'd accomplished, her presence in the room, and her insights about herself. So I couldn't think of a better person for season 5 of this podcast to talk about growth and to bring us on a journey between before and after at her organization. So welcome, Christina. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. So on this podcast, we try and keep it real, and we try and, talk real talk to folks that listen. Would you do us the honor of describing yourself, not just your professional accolades and all that good stuff, which we can't wait to hear about, but who you are and what's important to you? Christina, welcome.
Thank you very much. What is important to me and who I am? I am Christina Schoemaker. Professionally, I am Senior Vice President for Advancement at Valley Youth House. We are a nonprofit organization that spans 14 counties in eastern Pennsylvania and serves over 17,000 youth and families a year.
Wow.
Personally, we have quite the impact. We are changing the lives for the better of many, many young people and their families. Mm-hmm. It's very meaningful work.
You bet.
On a personal level, I am a wife. My husband, his name is Chris, and we have 2 children, Chloe and Cohen, and we have 2 fur babies. And what is important to me is ensuring that my family is, my family is a top priority.
Yeah,
so right now, yes, thank you. My daughter, just finished her freshman year of college, and my son is entering his senior year of high school. And so, as you know, as a busy working mom and professional, I will be out of state next week for a fundraising event. And that it just happens to be the same day as my son's art show.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was in communication with his art teacher, and she opened the art show early for me yesterday. And after our agency annual meeting, allowed me to go in and see all of his artwork with him and preview the rest of the students' artwork as well, which is really wonderful. We've got some talented young students in our school.
So to set the stage for this conversation about growth, I want to use this podcast to do a before and after with Christina. And under her leadership, I found this just absolutely stunning. In 2013, when she came in, the organization was raising $1.4 million. And 10 years later, a decade later in 2024, their last annual revenue target was 19.7 million, which they achieved. That is incredible, Christina. So actually, before I go on, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, it's funny about numbers and fundraisers, right? Because we all go, wow, how did she do it? And I absolutely want you to own that and revel in it. But I also want to talk about what kind of sacrifice or commitment that it requires to make that happen. And I really am looking forward to having that unpacked today. So tell us where you were at in 2013 when you walked in to this organization.
Sure. So about 10 years ago, I really started to get antsy. I had been working at a renowned health network, and I really enjoyed my work. I was a major gift director. I was having a lot of success, but I knew I wanted to be the head of a development department. And I knew that I couldn't achieve that at the network that I was at without getting the leadership experience that I needed. And so I started to really look at other organizations, but I needed to find something that aligned personally with myself. And I was really fortunate in finding a director of development role at Valley Youth House, an organization that empowers young people, which is personally very important to
Mm-hmm.
me. And it had really good bones. So to use the analogy of a house, it was an organization that needed a refresh. It really needed a renovation to be able to restore it back to its original beauty. And the organization was struggling with leadership. So they had a longtime CEO that had been there for over 30 years and had just retired. A new CEO was on board, but actually didn't end up working out. And so I saw the potential and I envisioned what this organization could be in the future with better positioning, with strategic planning, with targeted initiatives, with the recruitment of community leaders, and a heck of a lot of hard work and sacrifice along the way. But over the last
Yeah.
decade, our fundraising efforts have dramatically increased, as you
Yeah.
have mentioned.
Okay, so let's just call a spade a spade. You leave healthcare, you leave a pension, you leave a really nice job, you leave, I'm not saying that you work less and because you don't, but you're very valuable as a major gifts officer. You have a certain amount of independence, I'm going to guess, as long as you hit your targets. So what's going through your mind as you're leaving this? What does your partner say? I'm just curious.
Oh, you make me laugh. There were lots and lots of conversations about this because I could have rode that job out into retirement. But I knew me. I know that I am a very high performing
Yeah.
individual. That excellence is important to me. I'm personally driven. I've been that way since I was a young girl,
Yeah.
and so I knew that I had to take this chance
Mhm.
and prove to myself that I could do it.
Mm.
I met with our chief medical officer on the last day of my employment with that organization. And he said that the hospital had a revolving door for employees like me, that I was always welcome back. And that
Mhm.
was really gratifying.
Yeah.
And so when I came to Valley Youth House,
Mhm.
I wasn't sure that I was making the right decision. And quite frankly, there were many moments in the very beginning where I thought I stepped out of the frying pan and directly into the fire.
Yeah. Right, because I mean, one just normalizing it, you have no prospect management, you have nobody to book appointments for, you have no resources. I mean, I've been there, and you're like, how am I going to figure this out? Right. So, what did you focus on first? Let's go there. How many team did you have? Too. Let's set up what kind of team did you have?
Sure. So I had one part-time employee and four full-time employees.
Okay.
So the team was five, including myself. And the running joke in the beginning was, who does that? That's what I would say to my assistant. Well, who does that? Because I had an entire marketing team at my,
Hmm.
disposal where I worked prior. We had writers and photographers. I had a team of event planners. And so I would say, who does that? And she would look back at me with this confused look on her face. And I would say, oh, that's me.
Oh my God. I mean, we're laughing, but it's so true. Okay, okay. So you figure out everything lands, the buck stops on Christina's desk. Okay, so and you've got this team. I'm just gonna take a wild guess. My experience with small teams is that everybody does everything, nobody knows whose is what, and nobody takes responsibility. I'm simplifying. Was that your experience, or prove me wrong?
That is 100% the experience. Yes. So there, team dynamics, we had to really kind of look at who needed to go because that, is that is the case
Yeah,
oftentimes.
absolutely.
So some people had to leave the team and leave the organization in order for us to reorganize, look at some others on the team and elevate their positions in order to recruit some new people to the team, some, fresh ideas to be able to help us get to the next level. So to kind of set the stage, the agency special events were in a really bad place. The year prior to me coming on board, the gala had been canceled because it only raised $11,000. We were running a sporting clay event, which is a lovely event, but it didn't necessarily align with a children's organization.
Mm-hmm.
So and for me, I didn't want to just come in and slash everything.
Yep.
I needed to see how things were running and then kind of tweak it from there. So it became very apparent that that event um, needed to end, and that we needed to put in place other events and recruit top community leaders to really help us get to the next level. So the sporting clay was raising about $13,000 a year. We had a golf and tennis tournament that was raising $50,000 a year, but it cost $30,000. So it was really
It's a community
raising.
engagement event is what it
It was
was.
it was a friend raiser. Yep. It was raising $20,000. And as you know, that's 61% was our cost per dollar raised, which was terrible.
Yeah.
National benchmark is 50%. And I like to be much, much lower than that.
Yeah.
And so we really had to kind of take inventory
Yeah.
of what was happening. And then from there, kind of refine and put in place some targeted initiatives and take a lot of risks in order
Yeah.
to get us to that next level.
Yeah. I have so many questions. Oh gosh. What was the resistance like at the leadership table, at your boss's level when you come in and you start making recommendations? And I don't mean to throw people on the bus. I just know that we've always done it this way kind of thing. What did you get back from them? And how did you manage that relationship?
So it was really interesting for me because I had mentioned that a longtime CEO was with the agency. And so most of the leadership team had grown up, if you will, with that CEO. The new CEO comes on board and recruits me. And in our first meeting, it becomes very clear to me that nobody likes the new CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, nobody likes me
Mm-hmm.
because she recruited me. And so it was an uphill battle to, one, have my voice be heard because there was that immediate resistance to being heard. That was, number one. And then I really had to earn through, the proof is in the pudding. I really had to earn my seat at the table, my voice with that group, and through that process, it's amazing because on that team too, the people changed.
Yeah.
So not only my advancement team, but also our leadership team.
It's a thing, right? Like the old longtime CEO, often there's somebody that comes in, they don't last, and then there's the real anchor. Um, and we're talking about youth. We're talking not quite social services, but the same idea. It has a lot of bugaboos and stuff. I can just see you coming from healthcare being pegged as the money that always asks everyone, the person that asks everyone for money and only asks about budgets. And I can see it coming a mile away, right? Um, how did you keep your compassion, your humanity as you're cleaning house and bringing in your ambition to the table? Because the more ambitious you are, the more successful, the more money you raise, the more money to go to mission. How did you manage that?
Wow, that's a really good question. And I'm going to kind of say that part of that management and our role as philanthropy influencers is
Nice.
to always push the shine away from ourselves, right? It's not about me. as much as it is about me,
Hmm.
it's not about me. It's about the donors, the contributors to our powerful, life-changing cause, and showcasing them as community leaders. Because when that happens, then they start to introduce us to their friends, their business colleagues, their networks of influence. And through that, our mission becomes fulfilled, and our role in the advancement department and our fundraising efforts just increase.
Hmm.
So you need to know your role in it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but show that
Yeah.
our role is showcasing others.
Yeah, what I take away from that is a knowing about yourself, and that arrogance is never going to serve you, right? In those situations, there's no point in you trying to go head to head with the CEO. I mean, these are really wise words of wisdom for those of you listening. Like, there is no point in fighting your CEO. What you can do is figure out a strategy that works for you, that includes him or her and makes the donors feel really great. So, and your influence grows. Those first successes are so key. Can you, if I was to ask you, when did you realize that it was going to be okay? Like, there's usually like one or two successes where the light bulb goes off and people go, "Oh, this is how you do it." Did you have one of those?
Absolutely. We had a couple of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the first one was really kind of putting the messaging in place.
Okay.
So the agency had only ever accepted or done marketing work through pro bono. So if we needed a new logo, we recruited a board member, and that board member, their company would design and donate the logo. And so at the time that I came on board, the board of directors invested a significant amount of money to hire a marketing company. Now, during this time, the CEO at the time was leading the marketing strategy.
Hmm.
That CEO resigned from the organization, and the job became mine to
Oh,
remarket the
lucky you,
communication.
actually. That's like, yes, bring it on, right? You're like, finally, I get control, right?
Yep, exactly. I got it. Let's
Yeah.
do this.
Well, and it's that moment when you realize, like, and I'm laughing because how many fundraisers do I know that fight like mad to be chief fund development and marketing manager? And otherwise, you get this push and pull between communications and donor communications. But one thing I didn't ask is, of maybe I should ask this too, like, just for context for our audience, is how much other money is coming into Valley Youth House? Like, you're raising in that first year 1.4, but is the total budget like 100,000, 100 million? What's the total budget? What piece of it is philanthropy?
Yes, really good question. So at the time when I had first started, our budget was roughly $20 million.
Okay.
And so 1.4 was the philanthropic side of things.
Okay.
And part of the struggle with the leadership team is that for many years, the advancement team wasn't paying for itself, let alone paying for the programs and helping to enhance the programs. And so that was part of the rub, right? That, what is our role? How can we say that we're worthy, or that we are helping the
Yeah.
agency? So
Yeah.
we had to change that dialogue.
Yeah.
So today our budget is $51 million, and we're raising 19.7 of
Yeah.
that. So you can really see how that has changed.
Yeah. The voice at the table. Okay. So tell us about the aha moment. When does this success happen? What's the light bulb? I can't wait to
Mhm.
hear this.
So a couple of things kind of happened. I started working with a marketing company based out of Philadelphia, and they helped us with our brand strategy. We put in place a new logo, branding guidelines, a communication plan, all of the pieces to help us properly sell ourselves, properly message ourselves as an agency. We were doing incredible work, but
Right.
nobody knew about it. Only
Yeah.
our key stakeholders knew about it. And we really needed to double and triple those key stakeholders if we wanted to get to where we are today. And
Yeah.
so part of the key was a little bit of luck and strategy coming together at the same time. So in this time frame back in 2013, 2014, Allentown was going through a revitalization. And so there was a new arena that was being built, and today it's home of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. This arena is known as the PPL Center. And so Valley Youth House, we approached the PPL Center and their adjacent hotel, the Renaissance Allentown, and asked them whether or not they would partner with us on a new fundraising concept for the Lehigh Valley. Now, I had managed a number of events over the years, so I was ready for this challenge and I was really excited. But we also took a very big risk. We we agreed to buy $90,000 worth of performers' tickets and to really invest in this event. Now, the
Okay.
last time Valley Youth House had done an event, we only raised $11,000.
Yeah.
So we were coming out of the gate saying, we're going to spend a significant amount of money, but we think through targeted initiatives that we'll be able to get that and then some back in return. So we recruited top community leaders, so some of the top CEOs in the Lehigh Valley. And then we also asked a Lehigh Valley CEO and his wife and their company to be our distinguished honorees. And the luck part of it is that our performer just happened to be Elton John.
The Elton John, correct?
The Sir Elton John.
Sir Elton John.
And so our event sold out in 1 week. Our phones were ringing off the hook. We raised $330,000 in 1 week. We netted over $250,000. To this day, all these years later, this event runs at around 23% cost per dollar raised,
Yep.
Which is well below the 50% benchmark. And it's something that we've been able to sustain for the last decade.
Amazing. 10 years. That's also in the event world. Just having something for 10 years that's continuously profitable is pretty incredible. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great example. Okay. I want to go somewhere else. I want to go to team. I want to go to where are the first, so you clean house, you get the right people, or maybe between the lines, figure out who you have and what they can do. You hire a couple more and you stabilize. I'm speeding through this story. We have 10 years to cover here. Who's your next big hire and how do you pitch it to the leadership?
So, in order to bring new positions on board, we had to get to that point where, like you mentioned, we were stable. So, we had to be bringing in more revenue to now prove that we could afford these positions.
Yep.
And then part of that too, very honestly, is me kind of relinquishing some of that control, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh.
I've been doing this work with a very small team.
Yeah.
And so I now have to put the trust in others that they're going to be able to excel forward. And so part of this is I kind of took a look inward at our existing team and then reassigned some responsibilities in order to determine where are the gaps. And then through this process, it was easy to determine who needed to be hired, and then how we were going to maintain those positions. And part of that, then it kind of becomes a natural process to be able to pitch it to your leadership team, because you're able to very easily say, "This is what we have in place, and these are the things we need to do to get us to here. We're here now."
Yep.
We can be here.
So my takeaway is hook them into the vision of the desired future state rather than pitching the costs of the moment, which are always unpalatable. And I see this, I just want to jump in with a couple of thoughts, capital campaigns, new businesses, the costs are up front, the rewards are afterwards. So you've really got to sell them. And if you're a foundation, just a flagging for some of our folks that have completely separate foundations from organizations, those dang reserves that sit there doing nothing, taking out something out of that reserve, scandalous to imagine it or suggest it, to invest, not spend, invest in something that you can create a return on is incredibly valuable. It takes confidence, Christina. It takes chutzpah. It takes, commitment to the vision. And it sounds to me like people were willing to go along with you with that new hire, that new expense, new investment. Excuse me, myself, Jenny, investment.
Yes, multiple times. So that team of 5 that I talked about a decade ago, well, now we're a team of 13.
Amazing.
So we were able to say, okay, we identified this position. And part of the backfill for us is it was easy to build our grants team first,
Sure.
because grants allow you to bring in bigger gifts in a shorter period of time. So they're kind of, every time you add a grants person, they're paying for themselves and then some very quickly. On the individual side of things, in major gift and transformational gifts, it takes a little bit longer. You have to, just like the leadership team, how I had to build trust with them, you have to build trust with your major donors, because you are an investment of their hard-earned money, and you have to prove that you're worthy of it.
Yeah. And just as much their time, because they, when you're talking about that network, social network, they could be spending their night with just about any member, anybody doing anything. And a lot of them in my world, because I'm in Canada, half of them spend half their winters in Florida anyway. So they're not even available to access. We glossed over it at the very beginning, but I think it's worth highlighting again, because repositioning the perception of the organization from a branding and marketing and look and feel, but also with the network of people that are connected to it. My take is you took your healthcare experience with high net worth individuals or a certain cachet of the society, and you introduced them to this cause that was equally as worthy of honorary support, money for sure, but time and connection also. How did that go over? And I'm asking this carefully. How did that go over with the programming people? Because sometimes social services doesn't like people of means. Did you have that experience?
Not at all.
Okay. Yeah. Are you being facetious? We're calling a spade, right? Like, let's talk about this.
Oh, absolutely. I've been given the nickname the Bulldog.
Yeah.
So you can't tell on this screen that I'm only 5'2".
Okay.
And so, and what my team lovingly, they say, call me the Bulldog, because I have had to be really tough and really fight for what I have believed was always there, and constantly reintroducing the same ideas.
Yeah.
Social services people, gosh, they have the biggest hearts.
They do.
Ever. They work so hard. The work that the team at Valley Youth House accomplishes every day, I'm tearing up.
I know.
It is incredible. It is incredible. But they also, nobody does it better than us. We can do this. We don't need help. And until they realize, oh, Christina has something there.
Yeah.
This is a good thing to accept help, because rather than running here, we can move to the next level. So what I've been pitching to them a lot this year is, right now we can help kids this way. I want to help kids deeper. I want to take them over the finish line. When, some of the challenges that we're struggling with is their car will break down. And now a $500 bill means that they can't get to work. So now they're losing their job. Now they're losing their apartment. And so all in $3,000 to $5,000 can have dramatic
Yeah.
lasting negative effects for the youth and the clientele that we're serving.
Yeah.
And so I want to get us deeper in
Yeah.
helping the young people.
Oh my God, I so relate to that. I just, and it's hard to write that in a grant application, right? That's where individual giving really comes in, and I think of it as a bit of a, what do you need and who can you talk to, and it becomes like this sort of matching of we always call ourselves the matchmakers. Okay, I want to go back to you. I want to talk about because I really think the leadership piece here is important. It's all shiny, all the numbers, all the math. I mean, we can talk about the processes. I'm going to guess that you put in place, the systems, that if the efficiencies, all that stuff. How are you feeling in, let's call it, a couple of years ago? Like, where was your growth as a leader?
So part of it is owning it, right? The last the last couple of years, I've had a lot of conversations with our board members. So just like I always try to give credit to our donors, I also try to give credit to our team. And so I'm helping them along the way, but I'm really trying to make sure that their success is seen as their success and
Yep.
not my success.
Right.
So, through that servant leadership, if you will,
Yep.
that's kind of, I think, been the key to my success, the key to retaining an award winning team,
Yep.
right? Because if I were to take all of the credit,
Yep.
then no one would want to stay on the team and work for that type of tyrant leader. So
Oh,
that
there's lots of them out there too. Let's just be clear.
there is,
Lots
yes,
of them.
lots of them, and I think I'm very honest and very real with my
Yeah.
team,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of very real
Yeah.
conversations. We have conversations about what it's like to be a woman in the workplace, how difficult it is to fundraise as a woman when you're working with a primarily male dominated society, and how you have to be confident,
Yeah. Yeah.
confrontational at times, take
Yeah.
risks, and really put yourself out there, to be taken seriously, and to be seen as a leader in the field.
Yeah, I was waiting for to be seen, right? Because part of this, so key message, aha moment, you can complain about the fact that nobody respects you or you can't get your message out, or you can double down on your decision to get there and come up with some new strategies, right? And I really appreciate you calling out the fact that, yes, even as a woman CEO, you aren't part of the crew when they go play golf. And you are going to have to accept the fact. I mean, I've had colleagues and I've had clients that have done it differently. You either learn how to play golf or you find a number two that you really connect with and you build your strategy through that male number two who goes plays golf, with the reality that he's not a peer. He will never be a peer to those people. So, okay, there's a third one, which is you work with some male CEO that you build an incredibly trusting relationship that does play golf and you work through them. So the chameleon analogy is very relevant to me. But more than anything, it's the commitment to yourself and your way of doing things, Christina. Not that it has to be perfect every time, but that idea of that elusive word confidence, that no matter what happens, I know that I can figure this out. That to me is true confidence, and anything else I call false confidence. Does that relate to your world?
Absolutely, it
Yeah.
does. Yeah, definitely. I'm very ambitious. I always have been.
Yeah.
And for a lot of female professionals, they feel like that's a negative
I
thing,
know. I
right?
know.
Ambition is wonderful. It is very wonderful, and but it's exhausting, right?
Yep.
Right? Because I feel like we have to work harder to because as females and as working moms, we're managing so much. we're managing our teams, our workload, we're managing our household, our families. And so it's possible, but it's exhausting.
I completely.
I can't hear you if you are talking.
Sorry about that. Glitch there.
That's all right.
I'm full transparency. There's a dog. My dog is in the backyard. He is barking. I'm not sure if my podcast listeners can hear it or not. And there's nobody in my house apparently that hears the dog or is willing to open the door. So anyway, we'll just let that slide for a bit. Tell me, and full disclosure, Christine and I, you and I have never worked together in a coaching capacity. Well, except for at Icon for a session. But you spoke very thoughtfully about this moment in time when you brought a question to a coach at Icon and the realization. Can you share with that? Because that speaks a little bit to delegating.
Yes, definitely. So first of all, I just want to say that the executive coaching sessions that are made possible and that are available at AF Icon are wonderful. I have always taken advantage of them. Every time they were offered to me, I've signed up, and I have always taken away something from them. And so I think that the conversation you're referring to is my very first session, when I had mentioned how I had recently received a promotion and I thought it was wonderful. I got a little bit of a bump in pay, and this was great. But through the session, I realized from my executive coach that I didn't get another position because I accepted the promotion. And what I really needed was that position if I wanted to get myself further along and get our team in a better place into where we are today. So it really helped me change the message, change the dynamic when I came back to talk with my boss and with our leadership team. And each executive coaching session that I've had along the way, I've taken little tidbits and implemented them.
I love
And
that.
yeah.
It's so funny though, because so many of us would relate to that. Oh, great, I got a raise. But the question, the dark side, or the thing about coaching that's so interesting is, and what's the impact of that on you, right? Just taking that moment to ask that reflection question, and you realize, oh, gee, they just placated me with a raise. And that way the leaders don't have to talk about the fact that you really need a second in command related to X, Y, and Z. They like pretty savvy of them, actually. You're like, damn, I wish I had thought of that, right?
Let me just tell you, the thoughts going through my head on the plane ride home, I was like, oh.
Well, and let's just call a spade in fund development. You are so valuable as a fund development officer. The other thing, I talk about helping number twos become number ones. They don't want to lose you in that number two role. They're very happy for you to stay there, produce, give you a nice little bonus every once in a while. Like, it's not, I don't think they do it maliciously, but they're not really that interested in you moving up. Can we say that out loud, Christina?
Shh.
Right. And this is why we have to often go away to come back, as you chose to do, especially major gifts officers. Let's just talk about that. I mean, that's another one. So, and often what I hear from ambitious women is, well, just wait your turn, wait your time. It'll be your time. You're doing great work. Listen, any of you out there that are in this podcast, I'm going to get mad here. If you are telling your direct reports, you're doing a great job, I'm really happy with it, and you're not providing concrete examples of feedback or opportunities, you will lose that employee. Because if you are not thinking about their next job, their portfolio, how you can grow it, and giving them concrete ways to expand their learning, the good ones leave. They leave leaders. They don't leave organizations. Christina, does that resonate with you?
100% it resonates with me. Yeah. We're in a process right now where we're going through some change. So a long tenured director of grants for our organization, she's been with us for 20 years. She's retiring. And we are really looking at how do we delegate and elevate our existing team, many who have been with us for 7 to 10 years. And and that's something that I've really had to own. So when I've talked to board members, they've said to me, Christina, you have to take some ownership for the fact that this team has stayed with you
Yeah.
all this time. And when I really think about, what is it that got them to stay, I think part of it is the work. We're doing incredible work, but the other part of it is having very open conversations with them about their leadership. And like you said, giving them concrete feedback about what they're excelling in and the areas in need of improvement.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It really frustrates me to no end when I go in and start the conversation about professional development, and they kind of look at you like you're from Mars, right? Because there's no fund for it, there's no allocation for it, there's no respect for it. Something that was said to me, they appreciate in the bad organizations, they appreciate the output, but they don't appreciate the fundraiser. I mean, that just cuts to my heart. I acknowledge they don't know all the ins and outs of how raising the money matters and how it gets done. I don't need them to be in my business on that. I'm talking leadership, but I do need them to understand their role and the participation of those senior leadership people in the activities. And I'm also totally fine. I love the bulldog analogy that not everybody is comfortable talking about money, inviting people to invest, all that good stuff. I've given that up along the way. But I need them to understand that my skills of being able to do that are incredibly valuable. And the talent market is, I wouldn't even call it, I think it's a talent catastrophe.
Mhm.
The people that are good at what they do are far and few between. Not that there isn't challenges at the leadership level, or you don't have a clear strat plan, or all those other things that really are challenging, case for support, everything for fundraisers. But the ability to pick up the phone and talk to people and make things happen is a gift that I'm very grateful that I feel I have. And I'm very grateful to create space on this podcast for you, Christina, to say, if you have that gift, you are an asset, and never forget that.
Yeah, thank you. I recognized that many years ago. And I would say that kind of like my leading charge for a number of years was that I'm indispensable. And so that kind of kept me going. It's what got me up in the morning and, and kept me going throughout the day. But now it's transitioned into exactly
Yeah.
having my team learn those skills as well and
Yeah.
picking up the phone. It is the thing that I constantly say to them over and over and over again. In fact, I taught a seminar last week at our local Association of Fundraising Professionals, Lehigh Valley Philanthropy Day, and said that very thing. And I made everyone in the room take ownership and raise their hand whether or not they pick up the phone. And
Yeah.
you guessed it,
Yeah.
only half the room raised their hand, because it is very difficult. It's scary to
Yeah.
pick up the phone, to make ourselves vulnerable,
Yeah.
to have conversations. But without those conversations, you don't build relationships. And relationships is at the heart of fundraising, because just as much as the leadership needs to be in place for the
Mm-hmm.
organization that you work for, your donors need to trust you, the fundraiser, too.
Yeah.
You are just as important as the mission you serve.
Amen. Oh my God, that's amazing. So as we close out, I mean, I could do this we may have to have a part two to do like all the other pieces. Strategic planning, we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about revenue streams and keeping people in their lanes, which I know is also part of small shop fundraising. What's next for you? Like where are you and your team what are you and your team focused on 2024 and beyond?
So we are in the process of saying goodbye to two long tenured employees, one that I talked about earlier, and then another who actually joined our agency from the same health network that I had worked for. She's retiring in December. And so we're in the process of filling their positions. We're also branching out into the central region of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So last year we built a board of governors in Central. We have started with some awareness events so that we can get the community out there to know about our organization. And then we're going to be expanding our special events into that area as well. So the Setting the Stage with Elton John event that I told you about in the Lehigh Valley, we branched that out into the Philadelphia region last year. So we partnered with the Wells Fargo Center, and we recruited top community leaders in the Philadelphia region and honored a wonderful distinguished honoree. And we broke our own record, raising close to $350,000 for that event, which highlighted Lionel Richie and Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah. And so we are doing that event again this
Amazing.
summer in partnership with Jennifer Lopez
The
and
Jennifer Lopez?
the
The
Jennifer, the J Lo. And our
That's
hope
incredible.
is to do the same thing in the central region in the years to come.
Incredible.
We're in the quiet phase of a campaign. So, kind of looking at our sustainability as an organization, one of the things that we've realized is we work very hard, and we've put in the work to have these incredible special events that are bringing in annual revenue. We've ramped up our major gift work with individuals and with foundations, but we haven't built our endowment.
Neat.
And
Yeah.
so we're in the quiet phase of a campaign to really raise significant dollars that will help us with equity, impact, and longevity. So last year was our golden anniversary. We celebrated 50 years of serving youth and families, and we want to make sure that the pieces are in place for the next 50 years and
Mm.
beyond.
I mean, if you're listening and she's, I can just imagine her in a donor conversation where she says that and you're like, sign me up. What do you need from me? Where do we go from here? So your commitment to the cause and your enthusiasm is infectious, Christina. It comes across on video and on podcast. Final questions here. If folks want to follow up with you, where can they find you? What's the best way to get in touch?
Oh, thank you. So I'm on LinkedIn, Christina Schoemaker. You can also reach out to me. LinkedIn is probably the best, but my email address is cschoemaker, CSCHOEMAKER @valleyyouthhouse.org.
Amazing. Fantastic. Well, listen, this has been full of moments, takeaways, really inspirational. We're recording this on a Friday at the beginning before a long weekend. So I know for myself, this is my final activity of the day before I sign off. So a sincere thank you for your time, Christina. It's been a great leadership conversation. You would fit so nicely in under the umbrella of a woman embracing ambition with her life and her activities.
Thank you so very much, Jenny. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, awesome. So listen, folks, we will see you on the next episode. Show notes are below. You can find out more about me. You can find out more about the book, Embracing Ambition, which has now launched and is in Amazon, anywhere you want to find it. If you're looking to connect to me about podcasts, she's got the book in front of her on the screen. I love that. That makes me happy. So happy. I always welcome your thoughts, your comments. As you know, I work as an executive coach, but Actually, Christina, to your point, that continuum of learning is very important at Chavender. So we have some programs around emerging leaders as well. That's the 0 to 5, because we want to make sure those folks stay in the sector. And to stay in the sector, they need to be supported properly. Yes, with fundraising skills, but also with peer support, also with like best practices so that we can get them ramped up faster. There's nothing that kills my heart more than when they throw a junior fundraiser with very little experience onto a really big file and the board says, well, they'll figure it out. And I'm sure within a year they can raise their salary. Right? So we want to be part of the solution at Chavender, and that continuous learning is really important to us. And the way we do that is through executive coaching and peer-supported group coaching. So if any of that piques your interest, please feel free to reach out on our website, chavender.com. And without further ado, I'm going to say goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Go be great. And we'll see you on the next podcast.